Save big this summer with great deals, all in the Fred Meyer app. Get red, green, or black juicy seedless grapes for $1.49 per pound with a digital coupon. Then buy 2, get 2 free delicious 12-packs of Coca-Cola, Pepsi, or 7-Up, all with your card. Shop these deals at your local Oregon Fred Meyer today, or tap the screen now to download the Fred Meyer app to save big today. Fred Meyer, fresh for everyone. Prices and product availability subject to change. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Anatomy of an ad.
Subconsciously trigger emotions through music. Perfect.
Define an opportunity.
Imagine talking to millions of people across the U.S. like I am now.
Identify a problem.
Creating an audio ad is time-consuming.
Offer a solution.
Utilize cutting-edge AI. Imagine creating all that in under 30 seconds. Well, we did to create this ad. To learn more about AI in the audio industry, download the white paper from audiostack.ai.
Hey there, it's Jason. Welcome to the Jason Wright Show, where the mission is very simple. It is to improve always in all ways. Look, I am on a mission to create the absolute best version of myself. And through the Jason Wright Show, I let you know everything I'm doing to make that happen. I interview incredible, remarkable, brilliant individuals from all different walks of life. And I also try to bring you tools, tactics, and protocols that will help you in your own personal mission to improve always in all ways. Now, let's get started. All right, Cody Webb, dude, welcome to the Jason Wright Show. Man, I am so excited to have you here. I'll tell you the genesis of this. I kind of mentioned it just a minute ago before I pushed record. I was, my wife and I were watching the Red Bull channel. I love watching extreme sports, and that's where I discovered you, man. And your story is amazing. And then here's the thing. Besides being an incredible endurance motocross or endurance racing, correct me if I don't have the vernacular right, I'm not an expert. I was just blown away, dude, the things you can do on a freaking motorcycle that just frankly scare the hell out of me. I mean, watching you makes my stomach tighten up, man. So anyway, dude, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I always take opportunities like this to kind of help push my brand and what I'm doing. And, the off-road enduro racing world isn't necessarily like a huge sport that many people follow. Obviously, Red Bull kind of puts a lot of it on their platform, but other than that, it's not really in the mainstream sports world,
Well, it's not, and I think it should be, because I know that for me, and I know that, I mean, dude, you're younger than me, but you're a veteran in your sport. And it's like, for some reason, when we start to get older, we start to focus more on endurance and really going through some of the most complicated, physically taxing things of our lives, which is kind of awesome. I think we're living in a really cool time right now. And I think that's why I resonated with your style of racing, is that first of all, the balls it takes, the technical capabilities it takes, I got to believe the experience, but that's where I want to start with. So I want you to tell us the story of how you got started, because I think yours is pretty freaking unique in that you kind of came to the game late, which, I mean, at 19 years old, I think is whenever you started out. That's pretty late, because most what I knew of motocross and all the other racers like you, I mean, most of these guys, they start when they're like, I mean, I see them around here, because we got some really cool motocross tracks around here, and these kids are like barely walking, it seems like, and they're getting on BMX bikes, and they go up and they just graduate to motocross and take it as far as their parents will let them. You came to the game late, but then hit at such a high level. Talk about how your story kind of got started and what brought you to where you are today, man.
Yeah, so I mean, I always grew up riding motorcycles from a young age because my dad rode. And I grew up riding trials bikes, which is even more uncommon than enduro sport racing. So the trials side is like very technical oriented. It's just a very strange sport, but it's incredible to get from riding trials. So I did that pretty much my whole life growing up, every weekend riding with my dad, and then started going and riding all these events. We rode nationals at 10 years old. And I went pro in trials when I was 15 years old, I think. So it was pretty cool to be, like just in high school, I already had like a small salary ride motorcycles. It wasn't much back at it, but it was cool to have that opportunity. So, I rode trials, and then the sport of EnduroCross and enduro racing was really kind of coming on big. And guys I was beating in trials were doing really well in that world. So I was like, I can do this. So I bought my first full size dirt bike at 19 years old. 2 weeks later, my first race. And, ever since then, I've been kind of gradually climbing up the ladder. And I'm 35 now, so for a bit, but now at 19 years old, just doing it for fun. And, 25, 26 years old, something like that, I got signed on to the factory team and got a Red Bull deal. So I've been almost 10 years now with Red Bull, and it's been a wild experience, done more than I imagined at the start of my career. Things have definitely changed. My original goal is to be a world trials champion. And looking back at the thing, I probably got off the trials bike sooner and got in the off-road world. But, now I've won 3 national cross championships, so world super enduro chip, and, been on the top a podium a few races and massive races. So I've been fortunate to travel the world, experience their cultures and do this for a living and not have too much come out of my pocket.
So, one of the things that really struck me about the enduro racing is that what they call I guess, a circuit or track, whatever you guys, what is it? What's the actual term that you like when you go to? It's not a track, so what is it called?
Yeah, everything's different. We just call it a race or,
Okay.
yeah, hard enduro race is primarily what I do in enduro cross. So, the enduro cross stuff's a track. They built like a crazy man-made off-road track and an arena. And then the other stuff, it's pretty much the torture, but we call it a race.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they call it a there. It's literally, man. I'm looking at it, and I'm going to show a video in a minute for those who watch this on YouTube. It's not a. It's like going straight up a freaking mountain a on a bike, and you're going over boulders, and that's what. How do these? I guess whoever the game makers are, or the track makers are, how do they determine where you guys are going to have to go? And do you know? Are there like set? When this is something I don't know, like in Grand Prix, motocross, all this, I guess there's different tracks and that you kind of know, and so you can kind of master. These are like out in the wild. They're long. There's incredible inclines and declines, obstacles. Do you are they ever the same one over and over, or is there differences every time?
We pretty much never have the same course, which I really enjoy about it. I kind of hate the monotony of doing the same thing over and over again. And with what we do, my sections that like they'll have every single year, like, for example, one of our big races called the Tennessee Knockout, they have the Kinder Rock Garden. It's just like this crazy little waterfall thing. And either we're going up it or every year. So there's stuff we can expect every year, but we just don't know if we're going up it or down it. And I kind of really enjoy the aspect of our racing. Like everything's all, you never know what to expect. And we honestly are allowed one day a track walk. So we show up late and walk as much of this track as you can see. And obviously it's a lot of them are, like 12-mile loops or something like that. So you can't walk that on a day. So it's, huge grounds we're covering, and every race is different with it. I like that aspect, with motocross or supercross, it's the same format every time weekend. And, I just got from South Africa, the race there, amazing countryside, but getting there, getting home is horrendous because the flight is so long. But it was a rally style format. So you're just following a GPS route and doing about 90 miles a day of just walking paths. It's pretty wild.
All right, so I want to get back to some of the actual racing aspect of it, but so on this show, man, I'm constantly talking about health, wellness, and that's so the motto of my show is to improve always and always, and that means every facet, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, nutritionally. And so I gotta believe to do what you're doing, the level of concentration and the ability to find a flow state, which is like that was another thing that really drew me to what you were doing, is because I don't know about you, but I read every book that Stephen Kotler writes, and one of his books, I mean, you would be I guarantee you if Stephen Kotler writes another book kind of like he did with The Rise of Superman, you would be an incredible subject matter for that book, because what he talks about is extreme athletes, of which I would absolutely put you in that category, that you guys have a way to fall into a flow state like no other and get there quicker because, again, when you're going up the side of a mountain trying to control a a motorcycle and essentially make it one with your body, you've got to have just total immersion and focus. So with that said, what are some of the things that you do to keep yourself physically, mentally, emotionally in a place where you can handle some of these extreme obstacles that you're constantly facing, Cody?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, you talk about this mental side of things, the physical side. When I get to the races, that's like the easy part now for me. Now I am a father of two, so at home everything's pretty crazy and wild, and they're young, right? So that's like the tricky time of keeping organized chaos in the house. So I joke now when I go to the races, it's like vacation for me, and I can relax a little bit more, which most people would think that's a crazy statement because what we're doing on the motorcycles is out of this world. But I think the biggest thing is being able to like regroup when things go bad. Like with the sport we're doing, you can never be perfect the whole time. You're going to get stuck. You're going to get hung up. So I think the biggest thing is having like that positive mindset where when things go bad, you have to take a step back and kind of regroup. Like, a simple version of that is comparing to golf, right? Like you don't let what happened like the last hole keep bothering you. So when you're racing in these events, like you're going up to stuff and you have a bad run on a second course, like you have to put that behind you and keep pushing forward. And there's plenty of times where you're just completely physically fatigued, and you just kind of have to kind of roll back into it, get your breath back, and recover, get the heart rate down, and get going again. So it's just a matter of putting the bad stuff behind you when stuff happens in races, and focusing on ahead, racing ahead. Like when you're in the lead, honestly, that's the worst scenario sometimes because guys are behind you and you start thinking about that, and then more mistakes happen. Whereas if you're second battling the guy leading, it's almost easier because you kind of have that predator mentality and you can hound them and pressure them. So I think our mindset is a huge part to kind of keep forward and, you know, the best result possible.
So, I mean, here's one of the things too, man. That watching you race, I don't get it. It's amazing. So you're coming up on like a huge boulder because, like you said, you don't know most of these runs. You're just going at it organically. You come up to this like huge boulder that literally, folks listening, I'm going to show a video here. You got to, and even if you don't watch this video and you get to listen to the podcast, go search some of the races that Cody has done. Go watch the Red Bull special on him, and you will be blown away. You come up to that freaking boulder, dude, or a cliff or whatever. How in the hell are you deciding? I mean, it's like literally you're going to go over it, around it, whatever. But you've got to decide in a split second, dude. How do you make that decision to just do like a freaking bunny hop on a motorcycle to climb up on a boulder and keep going? And this is the crazy thing, dude. I've watched you literally bunny hop from boulder to boulder on a freaking motorcycle. Man, it's just so sick. So, how are you making that sort of a decision so quickly? Or are you even thinking about it? Is it just reaction at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely done it long enough now where it's reaction, but man, I'll tell you, it's so many years of bike, and I can look at something and I know if it's possible or not. That's basically what it's come down to. So that split second decision is just years of honing and refinement, knowing what's capable. And it's pretty rare where I'll look at something and I'm like, if it takes more than 5 tries, I'm just not going to do it because I just like, well, this isn't possible. So, but there's definitely stuff where it's kind of on the edge, and it's like you just keep doing it. It's never in a race, right? Just be a practicing scenario to push the limits of what's possible. But most of the time, I'll see something and I'm like, I'm even with trying. So it's just years of doing it, and now there's like, I've kind of had my time where I was the absolute peak of the sport and the target was on my back. And now there's a couple a little bit younger guys doing some stuff, especially a European guy. And he's a freak right now.
Really?
We do track walk and I'll look at something. I'm like, oh, that's definitely possible. But, I'd have to be riding this track for like a full day, get comfortable, and the conditions would be right. And I would do it. And like this guy will just second lap turn the corner, and just hit something absolutely ridiculous. And you're like, I mean, I could see how it's possible, but I would not do that second. So the sport is evolving like crazy, and the younger generation is just, it's no matter what sport you're doing is going to keep elevating. So I'm still hanging in there. I'm very respectful of finishes still, but sometimes I just shake my head at what these younger kids are doing. They haven't got hurt yet.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, they don't have that curse of knowledge chasing them whenever they're racing, and that's the thing too. That's really, I don't know if it's weird because I'm surprised. I'm glad that the sport is growing because now that I know about it, I'm gonna I've started following it more again, and you're the reason why I started following it to begin with. That's why I reached out to you, wanted to have you on the show, and it's funny, Cody. A lot of the things that you guys do out there on during a race, it's so acrobatic. Like that's one of the things I kept thinking about. It's like you guys are doing things that in other sports, let's take skating or other extreme sports that people do. That's literally kind of the entire thing is to pull off that maneuver, that trick, whatever. But you're doing it. It's part of the job. It's just part of getting through the run. And I think that's what just blew me away. And the closest thing that I don't have the I don't know what it is. Like when I go out on my mountain bike rides and I'm like on a relatively technical trail, which is not anywhere close to anything that you touch. Dude, I'm scared to go all out at all. I mean, like literally, I keep my hands on the brake. It just freaks me out. And you're freaking just blazing, just tearing ass through a trail like there's like nothing. And it causes you to have to do things to continue the race that again, that for a lot of different sports, that would be the highlight of the event is watching you pull off these tricks. For you guys, it's just part of it. Do you have to like how do you practice for that? Is it like setting up obstacles in at your house, at your place, on your own personal trails where you're trying to figure out, okay, if I see this, like, going around the boulder, going over the boulder, jumping the creek or whatever, going down the 90-degree incline, are you trying to simulate that? Or is most of the hardcore practice and getting the reps in just getting out there and doing the races?
Yeah, you want to try and replicate the best you can with practice with what you're doing in the races, right? So like a lot of our training loops is very similar to what we do in the racing, and it's just really a suffer fest, really at the end of the day. So basically set up two loops and kind of have a mix of everything, like scary downhills, boulders, riding through rocky creeks and over logs. You try and replicate the best you can. And honestly, it's just so many years of doing it and practicing, and the level of comfortability I have doesn't even compare to amateur. It's pretty funny for me to go and ride with my amateur buddies or, like a type rider. What you do in our sport, we about arm pump. It's like your arms up and you can't hold on well what you want to do. And it's like I'll be just trail riding, cruising around on the trails with some buddies, and they're like shaking their arms out, can't hold on. And for me, this is just like, my heart rate's at not even 100 beats per minute, and they're sitting at 160. So it's just comes down to efficiency thing, and done it so much that it's second nature. So, but when you get in the races, like there's obviously stuff I do in practice that I'd say is way harder than the race, just because you can try and prepare yourself the best you can. And honestly, I think the funnest thing is like after we're doing a training loop or something like that, we'll just go up and play ride and just that's when the fun begins because you just see what is actually capable. You're not trying to just hammer down and kill yourself. You're just playing on small. And that's where kind of like it compares to the skateboarder thing, just kind of doing a dumb trick on the same thing over and over again. We'll do the same thing. It's not realistic for a race, but I think it does definitely help long run and make your skills sharpened.
So one of the things you mentioned there that is something that I did have a question about because again, whenever I go on my mountain bike rides, the biggest problem I have is one, my right hand falls asleep a lot. My grip strength is tough, and so getting over. I mean, that's really your forearms and grip strength is like killer. And it's again, I'm not having to try to maneuver a freaking motorcycle. So, and then also watching you, it seems like you have to have just impeccable core strength. So do you have a workout and is there training that is specific physically to prepare you for the type of racing that you're doing?
I mean, at the end of the day, riding is the best type of workout for, especially with the arm pump side of things. I mean,
Mhm.
your arm, like I feel like the more you ride with that, the better it is. But I do CrossFit just about every day of the week. I never really these sort of off training before. All my training was just like riding a road bike and doing heart rate stuff for a mountain bike, and because it was fun. Enjoyable. But now I'm at my career with 2 kids where I got to work harder because I don't. No matter what, like age gets in there a little bit and hurts you. I'm starting to feel it now. I'm not even that old. I still feel it. So, but yeah, I've been really enjoying the challenge of CrossFit, and I kind of like the aspect where it's me with a bunch of people and just pushing each other as hard as we can. It's that same feeling one through. But the good thing about CrossFit is really only like a 20-minute workout of destroying yourself. Whereas, when I was in South Africa, I was on the bike for 9.5 hours. So,
God.
it's a it's a brutal sport for sure. But I think I found pretty good success with CrossFit the last few months, and I enjoy it. So I think it's pretty good for me.
That's insane, dude. 9.5 hours on a bike. So what are you doing to fuel
And that was
yourself?
after 8.5 hours the day before that.
Good Lord. How are you fueling for that? Or do you have food on board with you? Or how do you fuel for that?
Yeah, so that race did not end super well for me, but it was way too long. They made it longer than they should have, and it was 6 hours to the furthest point. So we had to cut remote gas stops, and they're pretty far out there, and it's hard to get to for the team I was riding for when I was there. So I didn't have any water till the 6 hour point, besides a 3 liter pack on the back. So I ran out maybe 3.5 hours in or something like that, and had to ride way too long without water. So then we get to the service point, and that's where, we'll do a tire swap, and it's kind of, dropping in the F1 or NASCAR band, get new tires, and kind of get you out. It's basically you need to take some sort of a mandatory break, shove a bunch of food in your mouth, sugar, and refill your pack, and off you go again.
Man, and that's the coolest. That's why I'm just so just intrigued by what you do. I love geeking out on just what the human body and mind can endure. And and again, with what you're doing, it you get to see in real time pushing another human pushing themselves to limits that most normal people would say is impossible. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just like
it was pretty wild. After we finished the race, the guy that won the overall both days, he finished fourth on the next day, and he really was hitting the wall to the finish, and we ended up having to be at the finish. And I've never seen someone in IB got sick and threw up from the IV. Like people like eat food and throw up after a race because body's not ready for it, but like he literally got sick from the IV. He was able to push himself to that point, which is pretty scary.
all right, so I tell you what, Cody. So here's one of the things. If you're not doing this now, and Red Bull probably has you hooked up with something like this, if you're going to be putting your body through that sort of thing, so you need to be talking to my buddy Dr. Gus Vickery. He's an integrated health specialist, and we do an episode every Friday called Authentic Health Friday that I air. I just aired one today on stem cells with him, and he works with a lot of professional athletes, and I've got this deal I'm doing. So I'm 48, you're 35, so I told you I'm way older than you. And so we're going to be working on this deal next year where he's going to try to keep me under 50 biologically for as long as possible. Kind of like, I don't know if you know who Brian Johnson is, the blueprint guy. It's kind of like the poor man's version of the blueprint. Like Brian Johnson's like spending millions of dollars to basically slow and hopefully reverse as much of aging as possible, which is really cool. It's awesome watching what he's doing. But I want to try, and Gus and we want to try to create something that average everyday
A budget
people.
protocol.
Exactly, a budget protocol that like every human can, like, if you just get, the protocol set up where your body's functioning correctly, nutritionally, you detoxify and all that stuff. And with what you're doing, man, you're putting your body under such stress. I would love to, and maybe that's what we need to do. Hey, get you to come on, and me, you, and Gus just kind of riff on, let him like ask you about some of the things you're doing and understand. And I know he'd
He's
love
going to be
to.
wondering how I'm still here doing all this
I
stuff.
know. I mean, it is absolute insanity. And I got to ask you, so you've got two kiddos. How old are they?
One will be 4 in a little over a month, and almost 8 months old.
Oh, wow. Okay. So boy, girl, both. What you got?
Older one's a boy, and the 8-month-old's a girl, almost 8 months.
Okay, so that the
I
boy
got the best of both worlds.
absolutely. And what's the boy's name?
Theodore.
Is Theodore wanting to race already? I mean, at 4 years old, he's gotta be geeking out on what dad's
Yeah,
doing.
he really wants a set of gear for Christmas. Santa's hooking him up with some riding gear, and he's really adamant that he needed gloves. He's got, he'll be fully kitted out. I hope he should be,
Yes,
But
yes.
he has like those little strider bikes you can push around, and then I got
Yeah.
him a Stasic, which is like an electric mini kid bike, which is pretty cool because there was nothing available like that when I was that age. So it's scary what the next generation of these young rippers will be like.
Okay, so it's funny you said it. So my wife and I, we own a children's we own it, but she's the one who's built it, runs it. It's her baby, and it's kinda like a landmark in where we live, and so I guess it was about 3 years ago we started carrying some of that stuff. Like the bikes that you mentioned are so cool. They don't it basically avoids training wheels. I mean, you go and you kinda use
Yeah.
your legs, and it's a really great way. So parents out there, the Strider bike is really, really killer. And then, yeah, some of the stuff that Razor's coming out with, like we've got these little dirt bikes that, man, I mean, for 4-year-olds and stuff, I'm like, we tell all the parents, say, hey, look, I can ride one. These things can carry me, some of them. They're pretty slick. And yeah, we had nothing like that whenever I was a kid. So it's pretty impressive. Now, are you at all nervous about him riding, knowing what you've been through? Or are you just like, no, I'm not going to stop him. I'm going to be his mentor.
No, yeah, I definitely want to be his mentor, but I also want him to partake in other team sports. I feel like that creates like a really good base platform for later in life. It
Amen.
teaches you a lot of skills. So 'cause I played basketball most of my whole life, all through high school. So you see a lot of these young generation motocross kids that parents pull them out of school at like 8 years old and homeschool. I'm not trying to do that program. It's just that's putting way too much effort and focus on the kid.
Yeah.
Then if the kid don't come anything out of it, I feel like it's not a good mental space for them. So obviously I want him to ride, and I want to have that opportunity later in life when I'm done racing professionally to have go on those types of adventures, even with my daughter when she gets to that age too. So I don't know, saying it now, but I'm definitely planning on keeping it, trying to do other stick and boards to teach that kind of community-based work together program.
That's really cool. And I tell you what, man, something I learned about must be something with all of you guys that are just into motorsports, or that world. Like I was in Italy this past summer, and I ran into it was a guy that was a former F1 racer and or driver, and they were there with his kid. That man was probably I wanna say, like, 7 or 8 and was a kart racer, which I didn't even know was a thing until I had to
Yeah,
tell this
that's how
guy.
they all get F1. It's pretty crazy.
It's insane, dude, these little bitty I had no idea. So, yeah, I mean, it's a real thing, these kids starting so early. It's a little bit insane. I can't imagine that that's I mean, you know, I personally, like, we kinda pulled back the reins whenever my oldest daughter, she was a big time, soccer player, she was really good, and she coulda played, but we would only travel so far on club, but, man, some of these parents, they're like, they push their chips all in, and, so I think
Yeah.
that's really cool that Theodore, will have that kinda more well-rounded, and if he decides now, will he or I guess you'll let him decide, but I guess the cool thing too is you'll be able to train him should he decide to follow that path for motocross, and then is there like a kind of a circuit that he will follow until he ends up into the endurance side of it, or if he should to choose to do that since that's what you do, or how does that kind of work? What's the path?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'll probably keep him out of like the motocross world. I mean, it's where more money is, but I don't know. It's not where my heart is. So I
Hmm.
mean, I guess if he wants to do it, maybe one up there, but he's not a super aggressive, super wild. I don't know if he'll end up there. You never tell. So
Yeah.
it's definitely kind of protocol to follow, similar to what I did, but maybe a mixture of trials and enduro type racing, which is what I do now. So that way he gets that technical side growing up, and then the aggressive side from off road racing kind of been mixed the whole time. So the problem though is like you never battle with your dad. I battled with my dad. Like we would just butt heads, and I made it through, but,
Yeah. Yeah.
you never listen to your parents like you listen to someone else. But we'll see how that goes.
So one of the things too, and then I want to watch you race here. I think this is gonna be really cool to get to sit here and watch you do some crazy stuff with you on the show. But before I get there, because you get to go all over the world and you get to experience it in a way that most of us don't. You're on a bike. I mean, you're literally out in the outdoors. My first question is, one, what's just the coolest place you've ever been? I mean, just culture, the trek, all of it was just really cool. And two, and then the next question is, because you are in such an intense mental state whenever you're going through that, are you able to enjoy some of these just unbelievable places where you're getting to ride?
There's probably 2 really cool Ben that are kind of one I just got back from was called the Roof of Africa, and it's in Lesotho, which is like a small country in South Africa, and I've always wanted to do it, so I finally went this year, and it was incredible. Everything you would see, like going back in time 150 years, and people were tilling their farmland with oxen, like an old steel till. Like it's
Wow.
pretty wild. You're out there and you can't imagine where you see these people on these mountains. Like you come up on this crest and there's people, like a family standing there watching you waving. I'm like, how did you get here? Where did you come from?
That's so cool.
That was a really cool experience. I was happy I finally got to do that race. It destroyed me physically, but uh, it's just long days on the bike. You said I was just riding around. I would like remind myself to go and just look around when I had little time, like moments to kind of, not have to have that full mental focus and just take it all in. Cause, who knows if I'll be back to have that opportunity again, but it was incredible side and the people there were so, they live off just nothing, like, nearly live off the land. So that was cool. And then I did a race in Brazil, flew into Belo Horizonte, and I think the area is called like Minas Gerais thing, but it was another rally style format. So I feel like the longer days on the bike cover more ground and see more things. And the amount of terrain I covered in one day at that race was just like and nothing I've seen anywhere else. And then you're just riding around and wild horses running around in front of you, and it was kind of a similar vibe to what the Africa race was, but just more jungly, and it was wild. You wouldn't see it like you were by yourself and wouldn't see anyone in Brazil for like an hour at a time. Whereas in Africa, I just kept seeing people everywhere randomly on the mountain. I was like, how did you get here?
That's so crazy. That's now, does your family get to go with you whenever you go to these places sometimes?
It just depends. It's expensive and a
Yeah.
lot of amount of stuff you have to bring with a kid is next level. So
Yeah.
normally when they go to a race, it'll just be like the EnduroCross Series, which is like kind of the indoor, easier to manage
Yeah.
thing. And then, maybe my parents or my wife's parents will come and help hang out with the kids. So it's tough though when these long races out nowhere, and we're normally in small towns and there's not a lot. So the EnduroCross is better for bringing the family too.
I see, that's the thing that I thought was so cool about your sport is that, like, whenever I've gone on mission trips and hiked into, like, the foothills of the Himalayas where you're just out in some remote areas where there are no airplanes flying over, there's nothing, and you're hiking goat trails. I mean, it's not like in the Rockies where you're hiking marked trails, there's a ridge. It's just like you've got your GPS and your waypoints, and you're trying to figure out from point A to point B. And being that remote and just cut off from everything, there's something just yeah, there's something so therapeutic about that that that's one of the things I envy most about what you're doing is you're getting out there on the bike. And I doubt you're probably kind of by yourself quite a bit, right? You're not in a pack necessarily because you guys are riding so far. I mean, so it's got to be just this. And I know that I don't know if you're like me, man, but I'm kind of weird. I love solitude. I love just kind of being away from people and everything. So that's got to be an amazing experience just in and of itself.
Yeah. I mean, I said earlier that it's basically a vacation when I go to these races. And,
That's nuts.
it's vacation from like a normal daily hustle bustle of life. Like this morning before we found this podcast, I'm gonna set stuff up for next year and like give away stuff with sponsors for other things to promote this and emails. And that's the, that's how which it comes with what we do, but like that's not why we do it. But
Yeah.
it's a new age world where this is what everyone wants out of us. You know, we want to keep our job, and riding and going to these amazing places on the motorcycle is really why we do it. But you know, when I go to this, it gives me an opportunity to like do what I love and really kind of dive fully into it versus having to, you know, home and doing emails and setting this up. And I, I got my engineering degree, and I already did all my computer type stuff in school. I don't want to do it anymore.
But see, that's
So I'm
what
milking
that
the writing thing as long as I can.
as you should. See, people always when I talk to people about that, they ask me what I do. I said, you know what? The bottom line is I've successfully avoided having a real job for 25 years. I don't want one. I don't, and I'm not driven by money and fame and all that crap. I just want to be able to do stuff that I want to find contentment, be with my family, and do fun things. And I mean, and you take that to a whole nother level with what you're doing. Is you found something you're incredibly passionate about, and you've turned it into a vocation, and it allows you these experiences. And again, that was what that's what all these things made me want to get to know you. And you just have a cool disposition, and that came through in the documentary. I mean, you're a grounded guy. I don't see you as one of the motocross guys. I mean, you can tell you just have a different mental state, a different approach to your life, family, and like I love the scene where you talk about how big sponsors and motocross, all this stuff, and yet you're about to go on a race and you're changing your own tires. You're actually fixing things on your bike. I mean, it's such a I don't know, man, just a very organic way of living, but yet you've still found a way to make that work to fund your lifestyle. And I don't know, I admire you for that, brother, for sticking to your guns. And I have 2 daughters. Mine are 22 and 23 though. And they're out there in the working world now. They just graduated from college. And I tried to tell them, like, don't ever sell yourself short and by selling out and just doing what you think you have to do. Don't be afraid of the red pill. It's like don't let the matrix suck you in, and it most certainly will. And that's one of the cool things, dude. I think you're kind of like that really cool version of somebody who's you've broken out of the matrix, and I don't know. I commend you, man. Well done.
Yeah. Well, now I've been working. It's been a work in progress. My wife's been with me for years to do it, but to do like an online type training program on the off road, there's nothing available for like that. Like with motocross, there's plenty, and they're all a little bit different. You have people spending a bunch of money, X Pro giving you a weekly protocol of, what motos to do, what to do at the gym, what kind of heart rate stuff to do. Whereas like I come from the technical off-road style of racing, so I've been compiling some stuff
Yeah, yeah,
and putting it all together. And it's like, here's all the information. It's basically like, digital book. Like,
yep.
here's your digital book of everything I've done, everything I can do with. And like, I really want this to be beneficial to people because I want something out of it. And like, I'm someone who like never pay for something like that. So I'm really trying to make the effort to make it worthwhile for everyone else. So it's been a fun new challenge, and it's kind of fun flying to a race. I'm sitting on my laptop trying to write content for it and breaking stuff down. And I'm like thinking in my head how I do this. Cause when I do it on the bike, it just happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of been my next adventure. Like obviously I'm still racing and trying to do that, but you can see I'm trying to avoid the real life thing as well now by putting this platform out. And like, I'm doing once a month with everybody who's on it, and kind of, I just really want to keep that engagement and keep my name out there because this is fun. I enjoy it.
As you should, as you should. All right. Well, let's see here. I've got one of your videos pull up here. I want to watch with you.
Yeah, the outhouse scene was the last
Yeah.
to this.
I mean, look at this, dude. Look.
This was pretty fast too.
How fast are you going right there, dude?
I don't know. I think I have one more gear on the bike. Like that's for like riding on the streets. So I think I'm in 5th out of 6, like about as fast as I can go.
Oh my God. All right. So for those of you who are just listening to the podcast, he is hauling balls on a dirt trail through the trees. It's so awesome.
This was a big move for a while. Everyone's stoked on that one.
Dude, you're doing freaking parkour on a motorcycle. It's freaking stupid, man. You like hop, you jump a boulder, and your back tire bounces off a freaking tree. Like, what the
I
hell?
was trying to mix in like the realistic stuff that normal people can think about, right? Because what I do in my races isn't like this video. This was for like X Games.
Yeah.
So I'm like mixing like the skateboarding BMX world in my
Oh,
dirt bike. Kind of the goal, but like all natural was the goal of this. It's like nothing man made.
well, you nailed it, brother.
Yeah, this is
There's a
another good
log
one.
in the
Riding
road,
down
no
the length
problem.
of a log, launching
Yeah.
to a stump,
This.
nearly looping out. This one took a lot of things. I already know what this is. This one, I tree bonk off a tree, and this one, I think I did it on the first try, and then literally we did it for like probably the next 30 minutes, and I couldn't tell me how many times I fell. So I
Oh,
finally,
dude, that is sick. Oh, I mean, okay.
yeah,
Freaking,
that shouldn't be possible.
freaking love it.
And
So
like
you,
for the people who aren't aware, like the bike probably weighs 230 pounds, like without fuel in it. So
dude, it's
yeah,
so,
it's-
again, I got to describe this as best I can to the listener. He comes up to a freaking tree. I mean, literally, the bike is completely vertical with the tree, comes back to the ground, and never, I don't know that you ever put your feet down. It's like you're
no, that
down.
was the goal. I had to make it look good, so I couldn't put my feet down. But this did not happen on the. I think I did it on the first attempt, and then never again. Like I literally did it so many more times till we got it. But yeah, it's basically a tree bonk where you just come out, slam into the tree vertically, and rebound off with the suspension, and try and land without falling. And there's some good crashes for sure that they got left in that edits of us trying to figure it out.
Dude,
Yeah.
that. I mean, and look right there, dude. Okay, so what a perfect place. So you just come to a freaking cliff of nothing, a side of a big hill.
Pretty
or
good
cliff.
size slab, a big
Yeah.
rock slab.
All it is a rock slab. And like right here where I've stopped it, you're in a wheelie on there's no turning back at that point. I mean, you go off, you're falling on rock, you're breaking your back. I mean, that's insanity, dude. That's so freaking cool. And like right now, are you even able to think, or you're just in forward motion right here?
I'm probably thinking. I think I was trying to hop on the rear tire to make it look extra spectacular. Because normally I wouldn't do it this cool, but it's for video. So you know, it's like the skateboarding thing. You're just
Dude, you're
I
insane.
can ride up that all day, but now I got to make it look good. So I got
Dude,
to
you're
try and
okay. The normal humans try to survive, and you're going for style points. Unreal.
yeah, going for style points.
Unfreaking real.
Like that's scary. There's consequence there.
That is like a huge gap of rocks. You go in there, dude, you're in trouble.
So this we chose this area because we've actually ridden there quite a bit going up. It connected to a buddy's house he had that he sold. So I was like, I got plenty of stuff I know in the past, and I know there's plenty of obstacles out there. And that scene where I jumped that gap, Brendan and I did that, I think in 2000, like forever ago. We did downhill, like we jumped down it. So it's like, oh, that's easy. And then we shot, like, oh, it's just a cool thing. I was like, I got to do it. And I looked at it and I was like, you know what? We should, could be a lot more.
Oh
But like
my.
you watch the video, and to me, it doesn't. Like, I do this stuff all the time, so it doesn't seem as gnarly as it really is.
Dude, no, it's gnarly. Yeah, you've been doing it a long time. As just the mere mortal that I am, I'm watching this and it's making my butt pucker up. I mean, that's just freaking nuts.
Oh, this one was really. That
Huh?
one took a lot.
Yeah, well,
That
look,
one-
you're going up, you're like going up rock moguls. Essentially.
Yeah, it's like a Frogger on a motorcycle.
Yeah, going uphill, no less. It's insanity. And then you just
And
fly off
sunset
into the
shot.
sunset. Oh, dude, that is so badass on so many freaking levels, man. Well done. Well
Thank
done,
you.
dude. So I got to ask you because I mean, watching that, it looks like there's a lot of opportunity for injury. So, and I think you may have. Am I wrong that you cataloged kind of like some of your injuries on that documentary? Am I just making that up? Or talking of
I
something?
had just, I think I had broke my wrist at the
Something.
end of it. Yeah, I the last day we filmed for that video, I broke my wrist. So was that. The video was it was on the video too. You saw me got crushed, and
Yeah.
I think there was another scene. They had some footage of me in the operating room, so we had some good storyline.
Dude, yeah.
I've had a
So
couple injuries.
yeah, so that one, you're going up a rock, you literally you go on your back and the bike falls on top of you. I mean, it looked pretty sick. So what are
It wasn't good.
yeah, so what are like give me what are some of the injuries you sustained through the years?
Um, First big one I had was a broken foot in 2013. I was kind of probably would have won the championship that year because I was really out of the championship by the end of the year. So I missed a race and still almost got it. So broke my foot. And then 2018, I broke the bone next to that other one I broke before and tore the MCL in my knee. And then 2018 was maybe the worst. I tore my ACL and PCL and meniscus, and I did
Oof.
everything but the LCL. And
Oh,
then recovery from that, it was terrible. It was bad.
yeah.
Um, my knee still doesn't look the same. It'll never be the same.
Ugh,
And
dude.
then when we were filming for that tactician video we're talking about on Rebel in 2021, yeah, I fell backwards on the video on the event. Basically, kind of like I just put my hand backwards when I fell back, and I knew something was really bad, and I went and took 3 weeks before we found out my wrist was broken, and I had to get an MRI and a CT scan, and then they just put me in a cast. Like, oh, you don't need surgery. And then, like 7 months after that, I mistimed some racing in Europe and fully I dislocated the small bones in the wrist, and that was about maybe worse than my knee because it's just all the fine motor stuff in the wrist, right? So here's my good wrist. You can see how much
Yeah,
it moves.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't get it on the screen here. I'm confused,
Yeah,
but
I can see
it does
it.
bend.
Yeah, I see it, dude.
And then it goes pretty this way. So that's all that matters because when you gas, you just out.
You can still
But
accelerate.
I had to drive back, like, to the hospital that night. I was like, hopefully it's sprained. But then I didn't sleep at all. And then after the race, ice pack off, and there was just a huge knot right by my radius. I'm like, yep, that's fine. And so I go to a hospital in the middle of nowhere, Germany. They don't speak English. I'm here for like 5 hours. And then the x-ray showed a broken radius. I was like, okay, easy fix. We'll get like a screw and back in that time.
Oh,
And then I'm flying home the next day. I had to drive 2 hours back to Berlin with a stick shift with a broken wrist. I'm reaching across, shifting with my left hand by myself.
uh,
And then I have my bag in my bags, get into the airport. And
wow.
I'm on the plane. I get a call from a German number. I was like, I should probably answer this. And it was the hospital calling me. And they're like, we're very sorry. We found more fractures in your wrist. When you get home, you must make operation.
You must
Like
make
straight to
operation.
hospital, make operation. And I'm like, oh, okay. So what happening was this tiny bone called the lunate wrist, and it popped out, was against my carpal tunnel. So I could have had permanent nerve damage. It
Dude.
did the wrong thing. So I had that fixed literally 2 days after I went home at the Stead Clinic in Vail. So I got a really good spot 'cause I'm here in Colorado and I knew
Yeah.
the people. Literally, I spent weeks fully fused wrist with pins, interior pins. It wouldn't move. And
Uh,
that's been that's probably the worst one I've had to deal with. I hated it.
Dude. Well, I knew you had to have had some and where in Colorado are you?
I live in the foothills west of Denver, so I'm at 7,300 feet in a little tiny up there.
Dude, that sucks. So if I wish I would have met you sooner. My daughter just graduated from CU.
Oh yeah,
And
my
yeah,
wife
so
went there.
well, and so we were in and out of Boulder all the time. I would have loved to have done this in person. I mean, maybe they'll give me an excuse. We'll do a part 2. I'm
Yeah,
always
part
looking for an
2.
excuse to get to
There's
Colorado.
good mountains out here too.
Dude, I'd be scared to death to get on any mountain bike trail with you. You'd be like, God, is this dude ever gonna catch up? Oh, I'd be so freaking scared. But all right, maybe goals. That'll be a goal. But yeah, I miss going out there. She just graduated last May, and so yeah, that's God's country out there, brother. Well, I knew you had to have sustained some injuries. If not, and that one that I watched where the bike came down on you, I was like, yeah, surely that did some kind of damage.
Yeah, that broke my helmet too. Bike landed right on the tin bar, like the mount
Gee.
protector.
Uh.
Broke the helmet. It was just like, it was so bad. It was the smallest thing, my foot, and I just fell backwards. Like, and then it's the snowball. You have other crap where you just tumble beyond belief and nothing happens. And that was everything just added up and it hurt. It wasn't good.
Well, Cody, this has been a blast, man, getting to know you better and getting to have some like play by play of what goes on in this incredible sport. But before I let you go, tell this audience how they can find you, follow you, support you. Where's the best way to follow your journey, man?
I guess the best thing is Instagram. I'm just Cody Webb too. That's kind of what I'm most active on because I'm at that age range where, we're good on Instagram. I have a TikTok. I don't do too much on there. I'm not a big TikTok guy. And then YouTube is just Cody Webb. Just type in Cody Webb dirt bikes. I'll show up on YouTube.
Got it.
And you can watch plenty of videos with that. And then obviously you got Red Bull TV, which you should because it's free and it's a great app. And it's just a tax write off for Red Bull to spend money on cool stuff. It's called The Tax Version on Red Bull TV. That's the movie that he's talking about. And it's kind of a cool look into the behind the scenes life and also obviously some really cool riding as well.
Yeah, and on the website show notes, I'll definitely link to the promo for that, the trailer for that, as well as the video that we just watched right there. And Cody, this has been a blast, brother. I hope it's not the last time we talk, man. I want to stay in touch. I want to support you any way I can. And if there's any way that me and this audience can do that, brother, I appreciate it because if there's anybody that exhibits the improve always and always lifestyle that I try to promote on this show, brother, it's you, man. So I'm really grateful.
Yeah, no, I appreciate hearing that because I'm just at the end of the day, I'm just a guy who's trying to do it and make it happen, and we're still here, so I must be doing something right.
Absolutely, brother. All right, man. I appreciate you coming on. Sit tight, and I'll say goodbye after we stop recording.
Cheers, appreciate it.
Well, that does it for this episode of the Jason Wright Show. Thank you so much for listening. This has been a Texas Titan Media production. Fourth Wall did the music, and as always, thank you so much for listening. Please consider going out to jasonwrightnow.com and signing up for the Vitruvian letter. Also, please go out to iTunes. It takes like 30 seconds to just leave us a 5-star rating. It does wonders for the podcast. I would be so grateful. And with that, until we meet again, go crush it and endeavor to improve always in all ways. I'm out.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Anatomy of an ad.
Subconsciously trigger emotions through music. Perfect.
Define an opportunity.
Imagine talking to millions of people across the U.S. like I am now.
Identify a problem.
Creating an audio ad is time-consuming.
Offer a solution.
Utilize cutting-edge AI. Imagine creating all that in under 30 seconds. Well, we did to create this ad. To learn more about AI in the audio industry, download the white paper from audiostack.ai.